Stay updated with what businesses are doing in the Middle East and find new strategies to grow your business. I am Ayman Aitani, Business Growth Specialist, and this is BizRap. Today, I'll have an open and honest discussion with a real estate agent on the opportunities and challenges of being an agent in the vibrant real estate market of Dubai. Plus, we'll talk about Swvl and its $1.5 billion Nasdaq listing, and how back in 2017, Careem had bought equity shares in Swvl and sold them less than a year later. That equity share would have generated hundreds of times of the return if they stayed. But with things like this, you never know. There's no wrong or right. And Instagram is expanding. A core internal mantra has changed, where they no longer look at themselves as a photo sharing app. Video, video, video. Hello, TikTok. Hello, YouTube. I'll be talking more about the plans of Instagram as outlined by their CEO. Also, back to school is coming up, and many parents, myself included, are excited about getting the kids out of the house and into their school routine. And Anghami has published back to school data, and I'll go over what stood out for me from that data. Lastly, in our retro bit, we're going to talk about watching old VHS and Betamax tapes of the recordings our parents made of us or for us, and taping Saturday morning cartoons. I'm Ayman Aitani, and this is BizRap. Swvl is now a $1.5 billion unicorn out of the Middle East that listed on the US Nasdaq. The founder, Mustafa, is originally from Egypt. He started the company in Egypt, and he's a former Careem team member. He left Swvl to start, he left Careem to start Swvl. Speaking of Careem, Careem invested in Swvl. They invested $500,000 back in July 2017. They sold it. They sold their shares less than a year later. They had their own reasons, as with any endeavor like this. If Careem had stayed on, though, seeing that the valuation has grown tremendously, they would have expected hundreds of times the return. But with investments like this, you can never know. There's no wrong and right long term. There's at the time what made sense. And also, Swvl is the third unicorn that has been backed by Beko, the VC out of the UAE. They invested in Careem, they invested in Kitopi, and in Swvl as well. The UAE continues to be a regional hub, an incubator of growth companies, 100%. Now, how does Swvl work? It bridges the gap between ride-hailing like Careem and Uber, and mass transit, which are buses and local taxi system. Look at cities with a large middle class with a mass transit system. We're looking at Cairo, Lahore, Karachi, Nairobi, Lagos, Johannesburg. Usually that industry is untouched by tech. So Swvl comes in where they provide a tech layer onto this transit system, where there are private buses operating on fixed routes, air-conditioned, use an app to request a ride, you reserve your own seat, and then you go to the virtual bus stop. So it's on a map, and you go there and you're picked up, and then you pay through the app. So it's not as expensive as ride-hailing like Uber and Careem, and it's not as cheap as the mass transit options. It's somewhere in the two, and it's been picking up in terms of growth tremendously, hence their large valuation. Next, Instagram is no longer a photo sharing app.
Hey everyone, I thought it would be good to start sharing more about what we're currently working on internally at Instagram, just to give you a sense of what's coming before it comes. Right now, we are trying to build new experiences primarily in 4 areas. The first is creators, the second is video, the third is shopping, and the fourth is messaging. And I want to start by saying we're no longer a photo sharing app or a square photo sharing app. The number one reason people say that they use Instagram in research is to be entertained. So people are looking to us for that. So actually this past week in our internal all hands, I shared a lot about what we're trying to do to lean into that trend, into entertainment and into video.
So that was the CEO of Instagram, and he shared that video on Twitter. The objective of this is to prepare the entire community of Instagram of the upcoming changes, right? So if you remember in the past, any large changes of any social media platform gets a lot of resistance from users. So this is a way to help get them on board with these changes and get them to see these changes. Now, this change in direction the core objective of this is to compete with video platforms like TikTok and YouTube. So TikTok is a major social media competitor to all of the larger social networks. And from an entertainment perspective, it is very effective. So I know personally, when I open up TikTok, 45 minutes are gone. You don't know where they are with small snippets of videos. The way they target and provide you with content based on what you watch is very effective. So with that in mind, the CEO of Instagram was saying that they're no longer a photo sharing app. That stood out for me because the core success of Instagram has always been photo sharing. That's their genesis, their origin, and that's how we've come to love it and use it. And so that's their call to fame. And now with them looking at this saying, okay, that's behind us now, and we're building on top of this. So we have a good core that we have, and we're building on top of this, with video being the focus. So that means you can expect that your Instagram will be much more video oriented. And you already see this now from the stories on top and the reel recommendations, the reels, REELS, the reels recommendations. You see that there, and you're going to see a much stronger focus on video as you consume your content on Instagram. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to avoid users leaving Instagram to go to platforms like TikTok and others. If you remember stories, Instagram didn't have stories a while back, right? And Snapchat had that format, and it was very popular. And a lot of users were moving towards Snapchat, so they're spending less time in Instagram and spending it more in Snapchat because of that engaging format. So Instagram reacted by introducing their own stories. And when they did that, they've been able to retain their user base, where people have enjoyed that format and they did not need to leave and go to Snapchat like they did before. So I see a similarity now here where they look at the popularity of short form video that TikTok has been enjoying, and for them not to lose users, for Instagram not to lose users to go to TikTok, or that time, so they won't lose it completely, it's just their attention, part of that goes to TikTok. This way they'll be able to retain them. I'll keep you updated on a lot. This is something I keep a very close eye on. I'll keep you updated on those. Next, we talk about the back to school season.
Since when these kids start using oil pastel? Oil pastel. The school's supposed to provide that type stuff. And the scientific calculator, that thing's $30. No, hey, let me call you back. Hey, put all that back out the cart. No, we not getting snacks. We not getting all fruit roll-ups and all that. No, that's a different day. That's a different day. We getting school stuff. Take advantage of these sales and deals. No, school stuff, because what we not going to do is get 2 or 3 weeks into the school year, you're talking about I don't have, I need, all that stuff. Go get you a book bag, a Trapper Keeper.
We don't use them no more.
Y'all don't use Trapper Keepers no more? You
No.
need to get the Trapper Keeper, keep all your stuff together, because your stuff keep flying out your book bag. I want everything school related. Spread out and go get it. Spread out. Spread out. No snacks. School stuff. Nothing but school. School.
So back to school is coming up, and many parents, myself included, are looking forward to getting the kids out of the house, back into their school routine. We're also apprehensive about what that brings. So there's pressure from school being back. We got to be up early. There are certain days that we have to do certain things. That means after school activities, costs, and structure, right? So there's the relaxed summer now. So Anghami has published back to school data. And I looked into this, and I'll point out what stood out for me. So almost 49% of Anghami's users are between 13 to 24. That means a good portion of the older community are connected and listening to music. And that comforts me because I look at many of my friends who were with me. As they've grown older, they've lost interest in music and they consume it less. I'm not asking about new music. I'm just saying things that you still listen to. So I've seen a lot of those in my circle have lost interest in that. So they drive quietly in the car without music. That baffles me. So when I saw this, I felt a bit more at ease that older community tends to listen to music as well. So half of their community is above the age of 24. Plus, 70% of parents are 25 to 44 years old. And that got me thinking about what does that say about the marriage patterns in the Middle East and how they're skewing older, with a bigger focus on education and career. So getting married a little bit later than before. And this gives an idea on the age group that are there. Also, when we look at the peak streams, so the ones that Anghami pointed out are 7 a.m., which is on the way to school. And that got me thinking, what does that say to radio morning shows in terms of popularity or not? The other two slots for peak are 2 p.m. I'm assuming that's when phones are given back to students after school. And for those of you who don't know, or if you don't have kids that go to school, if you go to school with a phone, you have to, it's tucked away, and then it's given back to you on your way out. Hence that potential peak time. At work, obviously, nobody can do that to you, and you can't do that, but just in a school environment, that's something that happens commonly. And also there's the 6 p.m. peak time where a chunk of homework is done, or after school activities are over, and so on. So those are the types of peak hours which are tied to usage of Anghami and what that data tells us. Next, we talk about real estate in Dubai from a perspective of a real estate agent.
Is talking on the phone getting out of hand? Look out! You need phone relief, the ultimate in hands-free phone design. Watch. Simply attach the special double back fastener to any phone. Then attach the phone relief headset. It's that easy. Hands-free, pain-free. You'll wonder how you ever lived without it. It's perfect for remotes. Now talk hands-free anywhere, anytime. Office work is a pain for Mr. Phone in the Neck, but you won't miss a beat with hands-free freedom. A must for the entire office. Work goes quicker and easier. The padded headset removes this easily and is fully adjustable. Best of all, phone relief works with your favorite phone. An amazing breakthrough product you'll use every day. Now only $12.95. Call toll-free to order by credit card and make this your last Phone in the Neck call.
So today I'm joined by real estate agent Josh. I got to meet Josh. I was moving houses in Dubai, and there were, a stream of different travel agents, of real estate agents who come in and out. And Josh stood out, and because him and I had a discussion about what does it mean for him as a real estate agent, what is he doing, what's working for him, what's not, and so on. So I felt I got a bit of a behind-the-scenes aspect from the point of a real estate agent, where that's, at least I don't come across this a lot in the media or in discussions. So I thought as a guest, Josh can come and talk to us a bit more about what does it mean to be a real estate agent in Dubai? How does he get started? What are his requirements? What are challenges that he sees? And what are opportunities for him as a real estate agent or in the market itself? Hey, Josh.
Hi, Ayman. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So what I'm hoping for us to cover today together is a bit more the behind the scenes from your perspective as a real estate agent. So because a lot of people, when they meet you, they're like, okay, how many bedrooms? How much is it? No, it's too expensive. Do you have something else? It's very transactional, and then you move on. They move on. You move on to the next booking, and then they move on to the next agent or the next apartment. So it's very transactional part. So if somebody wanted to know more about the realities of a real estate agent, how do you get started with this? What are qualifications you need to have? What's the human behind this job, Josh?
Yeah, wow, big question. So, to start off with, you have to be qualified through RERA, which is the sort of the government land department, which is fairly straightforward. There's sort of like a 4-day intensive course that you do, and then at the end there's an exam. And then pretty much for me anyway, you're sort of almost thrown into the deep end. So we're basically just told, right, go out, find your stock, put your stock online, and then the company has a great marketing sort of behind it, so it really pumps a lot of money through the marketing, which is massively beneficial. But yeah, that initial step is going out and ringing up potential landlords and saying, the conversation starts with pretty much, hi, is that Ayman? Is your property available for rent or sale? And then the conversation stems off from there. So started off with 0 properties. It was just a matter of calling through our database to see what apartments for me or properties just in general are coming up for rent in my case, and then working with the landlord through that.
So walk me through a couple of things. So you mentioned the license. You have to be licensed, right? So I can't just say, you know what, in the afternoon I want to moonlight as a real estate agent. I need to it's a structured market. I need to have a license. So what's the process for this? There's a website, you fill in a form, then you go through training and qualifications. What's the process with that?
of it, so I don't know the exact process. I was just told these are your days for training and then your exams on this day. That sort of happened about a month into my career, and I was given a temporary real estate license until then, but I believe that temporary license is only valid for a certain amount of time before you then have to go out and actually qualify yourself.
And when you say you want to find your stock, that means your role is to find apartments in Dubai for rent or sale. And how do you do that? Because in theory, those that are listed online already have an agent somehow, or at least the landlord is comfortable connecting, connecting online and listing. So how would you go ahead and find your stock? Because if you call those listings, you're likely going to get the real estate agent on the other side.
Right, and what you
Rita, is it me or is Josh cutting off?
No, he's cutting off.
All right. Hey, Josh, I'm not sure you can hear me. So, folks, usually we do dry runs, and we spoke with Josh backstage, and the connection was great. And of course, when we're live, we get internet connectivity issues. So, Josh, I can barely hear you, right? So, you still look good. I can still see your tie and eyeglasses, but I can't.
Can you hear me okay?
What is it?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay now. Let's try turning off your video. Let's see if that helps.
Fantastic. I'm so sorry about that, guys.
All right, let's try now.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you all right. So my question was, you've been asked, you said you have to build in your own stock. And so what happens in this case? Because how do you find it? You're new to the city. How do you find it? Because those that are listed online are likely listed by another agent or a company. Or the landlord himself, him or herself, they're fully comfortable of listing it online without needing an agent. So what does that mean? How do you build your stock?
So to answer your question about it being listed with another agent, what you see in some of the villa communities is that, and it tends to be with the smaller agencies, I've not come across this personally, and I don't know any broker that does this personally, but they will look at the listing and then use something like Google Maps to work out exactly where that villa is. And then there are databases that are available where it has the landlord's sort of personal details on it. So they can then go through, see what's available online. And then rather than calling the agent, they use this database that is accessible and they just call the landlord directly. So it's very sort of cloak and dagger and sort of almost a bit sort of snaky that way.
That's why real estate agents are not comfortable sharing, because when I was looking for places to rent, they were not comfortable sharing the location in fear of me passing it on to somebody else or me trying to fake being a real tenant.
Exactly that. And it happens a lot in the villa communities. I was saying that I was really lucky that I was put into the marina. So most of these apartments are very similar. It's a lot harder to work out where your listing might be. But basically, the way you start out is, so we're a massive company. We had a huge database of previous clients and their properties and everything. So it was a matter of ringing through that and saying, hi, you dealt with my company a few years ago. Are you looking to rent? Are you looking to sell? And that's how I generated a lot of leads initially. And then the other way, the most probably valuable way, is referral from your colleagues that are in different areas and that know landlords that own a lot of properties. That's where you can build the best relationship with the landlord because you've got that sort of connection. And that's the best way of building your network is through those initial referrals.
Tell me more about the affiliation with the real estate company, right? So you mentioned that they have their database. So they bring you on, you and others, right? So this is the common industry, correct? That real estate agents, they tend to be independent, not salaried, and then they're commission driven. What the company provides is I think their license, right? So correct me if I'm wrong. So their permission to sell via the license and access to the real estate, access to the landlords for listings. Is that it?
Yeah, absolutely. So my company was really good. I got provided with my visa. I got provided with like medical insurance. They sorted out my RERA license for me. But it is 100% commission-based role. Yeah, there's no salary.
Okay. And that's the risk you took, right? When you and I met, you told me you flew in on your own dime. You came into Dubai. It's a new challenge for you. You're coming in. You know that there's a lot of opportunities for you in the UAE, and you came in to figure that out.
Absolutely.
Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, so they were totally upfront about the fact that it was commission only. Most of the real estate companies out here are commission only, so that wasn't an issue for me. And the potential for earning out here is just sort of exponential, really. Obviously, it's about the amount of work you put in is going to be the amount of financial reward that you get to take out.
Tell me more about that. So when you say exponential, that means there's a huge room for growth. And isn't there like a limit of how many, how many showings or whatever the real estate term is, how many showings you can do and properties you can find and so on. So tell me more about how this can really grow for you as an agent.
It's all about time management. That's the most important thing. You're frozen. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you very well. Hey, Josh, I can hear you.
Oh, was that me or you that time? I'm sorry.
No, I can hear, man. I can hear, my friend. We're good.
Fantastic. So sorry. So I was just saying that it's all about time management. That's the most important thing. We have to initially manage our time to get the stock online, whether it's apartments or villas. Then when we get the stock online, we then get people inquiring about it. So we need to manage our time to deal with that. Then we have to filter through those inquiries to see who's serious, who wants to come for a viewing. Then we have to deal with booking the viewings in. And then we have to deal with the subsequent offers that come as a result. So there's so many plates that are spinning, if you like. And it's just all about time management. The way I structure my day is I do the morning is for trying to get more stock. So from 9 until about 12 o'clock, I'm just calling up potential landlords to see if there's stock available. Then from about 12 till maybe 4 or 5 o'clock is when I deal with we call them applicants, which are the people that have inquired that are looking for a property. And then I try and put all of my viewings back as late as possible in the day. So from about 5 p.m, that's when I start doing my viewings. And what I try and do, which is rarer out here, but pretty common back in the UK, is almost like an open house type thing. So I try and get as many people in to view one property at once, which doesn't seem to be that common out here, but it seems to work for me so far.
How is that working? So people are comfortable coming in, looking at others, competing with them, and so on. So is that it? Because many agents, many agents always use tactics saying, "Oh, Ayman, if you don't tell me today, although I just saw the apartment the first time, I have 3 others who want it, and so on." I know these are default tactics that they use. So how does that work for you? How is the open house working for you so far?
So I'm not a sort of person that's going to create that false sense of urgency, because if I tell you it's absolutely urgent, you have to let me know today, and then you see that the listing is still online 2 days later,
a few weeks later,
even, yeah, you're going to think, what an absolute cowboy, I'm not going to go to this guy again. So I don't like doing that. But by inviting a few people at the same time, it naturally creates a sense of urgency, because people can see the genuine interest that's in the property. If there was no interest, it would only be one person viewing. But because there's more than one, the people think, okay, more than just me is interested in this property, I need to make a decision fast. So it's a genuine sense of urgency. And it's a massive risk, don't get me wrong. I've done a viewing where I had about 3 different families that were viewing this apartment. And it was all going really well. And then one person commented that there was like some grout in the tiles. And as a result, everyone else heard this and said, yeah, the grout is so bad in this, we don't want this apartment. And it completely ruined it for all 3 of the families. So it's you've got to sort of balance it, right? another point of that is you've got to have total trust in the properties that you're putting out on the market. So I know that if I take people to the properties that I have online, they're going to like the property, right? I don't put fake photos on like some agents do. I don't mislead in my adverts because that just wastes everybody's time. So that's
you were the only real estate agent who came to the house who had a camera. I said, look, there are like 4 other agents and all of their pictures are online already. You said, no, I want to take my own pictures, right? So that for me was like, okay, this guy is trying to do something a little bit different.
Well, this is it, right? I mean, that's the perfect example.
Because it stood out for me because the Airbnb, because I always go back to the tech side. Airbnb's story is they've had, in the beginning, their traction was not very high early on. It was still called, it was still the air mattress still at the time. So what really had them tip off into traction was they started taking pictures themselves of the property or commissioning other photographers to list the property. That has helped them make the difference. So that was in the back of my mind when I saw what you were doing.
No, well, I mean, that's the perfect case in point, right? Is that your apartment had 4 or 5 other agents working on it, for example, and they were all using the stock photos that either you or your landlord had provided. So every advert was exactly the same. How are you going to make yourself stand out? There's only so much descriptive words you can use, large, spacious, bright, etc., etc. But people respond better to photos. And if they see, no matter how good the photos are, 4 of the exact same photos, and then one that's slightly different, that maybe gets a different angle or gets a different perspective, different lighting, you're going to be attracted to the one that stands out, right?
A big part of your business, I'm assuming, is reading people. How are you able to read them over the phone, right? So how are you looking at, because it's a funnel, like any other business, you have X number of people who are interested. There's a subset of those who lead to a viewing, and then a subset of those who lead to shortlisting for an offer, and so on. So what are things that you look for to, so let's start with discarding leads if they're not serious.
Yes, so this is a massive part of the job, is qualifying the inquiries. And it's really genuinely difficult, especially over the phone. There's some big factors to me that weigh into consideration. I mentioned earlier about time management, and I only do my viewings in the afternoon when I can. If I say to someone, let's do a viewing, I'm available at 5. So most agents, sorry, just backtracking a bit, most agents are taught just get out and do the viewing as soon as possible. I disagree with that. I normally respond to them and I say, my availability is 5 p.m. tomorrow. Can you do that? If they're not serious, they turn around and go, no, I only want to view it right now. And then you're like, okay, you're clearly not that serious because you're not willing to wait a couple of hours to view the property. Don't get me wrong. Some people have work commitments or school commitments and can only do certain times. And then they tell me that and I work around that. But if someone comes, I can only view it right now, otherwise don't worry about it. Chances are they're just bored, they're just scrolling through Property Finder, and they're just trying to kill the time, right? They're not that serious about it. And then the other thing is we have to ask so many questions. We have to, make sure that they've been in the UK, been in the UAE for a long amount of time, they've got their ID. We need to find out how many checks they're willing to pay in. I normally ask, what do you do for a living? How long have you been doing it? Who's going to be living at the property? And it's fascinating that a lot of people turn around and say, I'm not telling you. And you're just like, well, you can't be that interested in the property then. I mean, the landlord needs to know this stuff. I can't just be bringing strangers into people's apartments. It's not safe for one, and it's just not a sensible use of my time. So that's sort of how I qualify them and find out if they're genuinely interested or if they're just, looking at 100 apartments and just want to tick this one off the list.
I can see why they wouldn't want to share that information, saying, what does this have to do with the listing? But I can see how you can easily turn this around, saying, look, I need to see if this makes sense for you or not. So if you're a family of 3 or not, or a family of 1 or 2 or not a family, and so on. And also the landlord needs to know a bunch of things about this. So if after that they still come back saying, look, no, there's something off there.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, we just need to ask as many questions. And don't get me wrong, there are some people that don't feel comfortable answering those questions straight away before the viewing. And I've then had a spare moment, so I said, fine, let's go and do the viewing. And they've resulted in making an offer, and they're now living at the property, right? So to be honest with you, there's absolutely no way of telling who's a serious renter and who isn't. From like an outside point of view, the viewings is what's ultimately going to result in money in our pocket. So we should be trying to do as much as possible, as many as possible, sorry. But if we're spending half an hour with someone that's not a serious person in the apartment, you've then got to think of the travel time and petrol to get there. You then have to find parking. You then do the viewing. You then have to travel back. You're looking at easily an hour out of your day, and that's money out of our pockets at the end of the day.
When they're physically with you at the apartment, what are telltales that they're not going to buy?
The biggest telltale to me is when I say, would you like to look at the gym and the pool? And they say no. That's the biggest giveaway. If they don't want to see the facilities, they don't want to buy the apartment, basically. But there's other little things that you can pick up on. You do have to be genuinely good at reading people. If they're asking lots of questions, that's a great sign. They seem interested in the property. If they're checking inside the cupboards, that's normally a good sign, because you're not going to look inside the cupboards if you don't like the rest of the apartment. But for me, as we were just discussing, I don't tend to take people to viewings unless they're going to result in an offer. So most of the time I can tell they're interested beforehand.
One more thing about the agents. Many of those I come across, they don't know the apartment well. Is it because they have a long number of listings, or what? Because two signs for me is I'd say, look, I need a study, or I need this types of rooms and so on. And then when I go there, it's not that. And for me, there are very specific things that are a quick no. So if they don't have those types of, so I've told them beforehand. So they for some reason, many don't filter that. And second, when I'm there, I ask them basic things that I care about, saying how much, how big the apartment is, and a couple of other things about the apartment and so on. They don't know. I understand they have many listings, but I always look at it from a sales perspective, like any business, whether it's an individual or a sales. I got, I have you in front of me, and you're going to ask me about this apartment, not number 34 that I have, right? So it could be a simple spreadsheet that I have printed out on the basic things they always ask for, a number of parkings, how what's the livable space and things like this, and so on. What is covered, what is not, in terms of facilities and things like this. So why isn't that there? Is it because the commissions don't make sense on this, so that it attracts people who are just doing this temporarily and they want to move on to something else? Is it? I'm just trying to think of why, because I've been through a couple of these, moving houses and things like this, and I always come across a good portion of that set like this. Is it? Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a really straightforward answer to you, and it's quite frank. They're not very good agents, right? That's it. I think this job attracts a lot of people because they get in their heads that all they're doing is they're being a middleman, right? If someone likes an apartment, they're going to buy the apartment, or they're going to rent the apartment. That's a lot of people's mindsets. So they come into this industry expecting just to go around to an apartment, take a load of photos, put it on the market, and then they're going to get paid for it as soon as someone comes and views it. But it's so much more than that. Like you said, you need to know the square footage. You need to know whether it's chiller included, what facilities are there. You have to know these things as a standard. The second you slip up on one of those questions, your credibility is lost. The client that's viewing the apartment loses trust in you. And if the landlord was to watch you taking them around the property and not knowing the questions, the landlord would ask you to stop working on his property straight away, right? That's how you should conduct a viewing, is with the idea that the landlord is there watching over you and you need to impress the landlord, in my head anyway. So yeah, to be straight, it doesn't matter if you've got one listing or if you've got 80 listings. You need to know them all by the back of your hand. And I'm not saying you need to spend hours and hours researching it, but know the basics. For me, if I have to take a client on a viewing for someone else's property, I get there 15 minutes early, go into the apartment and walk around myself so that I know, okay, the kitchen's to the right. There's 2 bathrooms there and there. Because if I walk into an apartment and I don't know where I'm going, how does that look? It looks terrible, right? So the answer to your question is, yeah, the reason for that is that there are bad agents out here.
Because for me, I look at it as a simple aspect where I can have like a printout of 80 listings that I have, each with the basic things, or it could be one or two tables that I print out and I have with me, and I take out the ones I no longer am on. Just small things like this. What would be your advice to people who want to become real estate agents in the UAE? Would you advise that they do that? And what are two key things that you think that they should, take to heart and focus on?
I absolutely wholeheartedly recommend it. It's definitely the best decision I have made in my life. Be prepared for hard work. You really have to persevere. It's all about relationship building, and you've got to put the hours in to build those relationships. And then the second and probably the most important thing is be prepared for rejection. The amount of times I've rang up the phone, hi, is your apartment available for rental for lease? No, go away, don't call me, I'm calling the police. The objections and the rejections that you can get from landlords is phenomenal. So you have to be thick-skinned and prepared for that rejection.
Okay, all right. Now I'm going to move on to the rapid-fire questions, all right?
Okay.
Name one thing you love about being a real estate agent.
Every day is different. One day I'm a photographer, the next I'm a tour guide, one day I'm a call salesman. So yeah, the diversity in the job.
What is one thing you hate about being a real estate agent?
Oh, tough question. Having to drive from property to property and sweating through the desert and going from one place to another. That's the commute.
What do your friends or parents think that you do in terms of real estate in the UAE?
I think I just walk around fancy apartments and not much.
What did you think you were going to do after when you were in college? What do you think you would do post graduation?
I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
Okay. And what is my last question for you today is, what is the most unusual request you got from a seller or a buyer?
So I had just taken photos of a property, fully furnished, and it had towels. I had to take photos of the bathroom, and in the bathroom it had towels. And a couple of days later, I got a call from the landlord, and the landlord said, "Oh, I've upgraded the apartment. Can you please get round and take more photos?" So I walked into the apartment, and there was not a single upgrade. So I rang the client, and I said, I rang the landlord, sorry, and I said, "Oh, what's been upgraded?" And he turned around and went, "Oh, look in the bathroom. I bought a new set of towels."
That is unusual.
Very.
Josh, thank you for being with us today and for your candor and openness in answering the questions.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to say hi to Raed in the comments. Kifak Raed. And then I'm going to talk about the VHS and Betamax tapes.
Could you help me with the phone?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I bought it the other day.
Okay.
And the guy said to me that I could play any video that I like on it.
Okay, so what video do you want to play?
Well, this one here, this is what I want to play on it, you see. Glen Rowe. Glen Rowe. How do I put that into the phone?
No. So
do I open it? I want to put that onto that, you see.
of course, you can't do that, but...
How do you mean I can't do that?
You can't put,
but I have it.
I know. Yeah, but you can't watch that on that.
But he said I could.
I know, yeah, but he means you can probably find it.
You can
online.
find it online.
No, I don't know actually.
You'd have to go onto YouTube, I think.
No, I don't think Glen Rowe can be on YouTube. YouTube is online. You might be able to find it.
I don't have a tube.
So VHS and Betamax, for those of you who've gone through this before and engaged with them, this is a retro bit tech. What I remember was taping Saturday morning cartoons. So what my kids do today is they open up Netflix or equivalent and they play content anytime they want, right? So as a child growing up, we didn't have that luxury. There were just a fixed set of channels that you can count on your fingers, and you'd record those. You'd record those beforehand. So I had to record them so that I can watch them later. And also another thing that I remember about tapes is that you had to rewind them. So when you'd rent, there was always a request to rewind them. So if you watch some movies that either in the 90s or they tried to be like they're a 90s movie, there's a sign called "Be Kind, Rewind." For me, those small things resonate. And like a tech change in the VHS technology is that it auto rewinds. So when it reaches the ends, it will auto rewind the tape for playing back again. So that's a tech change. Rad is saying that he has recorded VHSs, but Rad, how do you still have those? So I'm looking at my own VHS. I'm thinking about those VHS and Betamax. I need to visit my parents' house back home to probably find them. I don't have anything. I don't have access to any of that because I'm sure my parents have that batch of videos of us back in school and recording and so on. So one thing, when I was preparing for the show just before we went online, and then I was asking if everything was clear, and I was asking if there's a video to go through what we were doing and so on, and then Rita, our content producer, said, "Oh, I spoke to your dad." I was like, "Why?" I thought, she had some videos. She does not, but she did have an anecdote. Rita, تفضلي.
Hello.
Hi. So what did you ask and what was the answer? You might be having connectivity issues, Rita. Or mute. Of course.
Hello.
Back with us now.
Yeah, hello. So I have just a quick anecdote from your dad, actually, when we were talking about VHS tapes. So he was telling me how you guys were some of the first to have VHS and Betamax recorders. And so even when you were 1 year old, you loved to watch videos for hours. And even at that young age, you would change the cassette, press play and forward and backwards. And so they would have people in different countries record Sesame Street for you to watch. And then when they developed VHS after Betamax, they also got you a recorder and you still really loved to use them. And so this love has obviously continued with you until now.
That gets me thinking, Rita, about how much of hypocrites we are as parents, because what we do as parents now is we talk about our kids, or we complain about their screen time and how much time they're spending online and on their devices and so on. And we had our own, version of this, like the story that was just shared now, where we spend time on those electronics, or replace that with video games or whatever it is that would rot our brain or whatever. That. So we are hypocrites as parents. And also another thing that I'm thinking about is that we pay a lot for these expensive smartphones with these great cameras and so on, but I'm pretty sure that our kids are going to look at the footage I record today from the latest camera, the most expensive one. They're going to look at footage that is as grainy and poor in resolution as, if I look back at the Betamax and VHS tapes. What I wish for you, the audience today, is good memories of old videos that you've been in, that you reminisce with family. I hope you were able to come across those, that warm feeling when you're in your parents' house and you come across old photos and old videos. I wish that upon you. That's it for me today. I will see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you for watching. Hey, Rita, I'm in an awkward pause. Need to end. What I can do in the meantime until Rita is able to end the show is I can share with you one of the stories where I met an old family member I'm sure this comes across to you. It's like, oh, I remember you when you were this much and you were doing A, B, C, and D, and it's always an awkward discussion. I'm sure you all of you had this, but it becomes more awkward when they say, oh, I have a video of you and my son or my daughter doing that awkward thing when they talk about their VHS and Betamax tapes. So that part, I'm sure a lot of us go through every now and then. But the younger generation now, everything is documented on our devices, right? So there is even much more footage of that readily available, not tucked away in your parents' house in a drawer. It's actually on an old Facebook account or an Instagram account or whatever social networks we end up using together. All right, that's it from me today, and thank you for watching.